Good evening. This is the planning board meeting of May 21st, 2013, meeting room 1 at 7 o'clock. If we could please stand to salute the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item under new business tonight is a sign permit. Attorney Eldridge, it's 100 Main Street.
This is the old Bridgewater Savings Bank. We're thrilled, at least I'm thrilled, that we got a reuse and a good neighbor, Carver attorney.
Two.
And two. Oh, okay.
Carver
I didn't know that. And there's, it's the exact same sign there, so we're just changing the message. And Dookie's here.
So it's 100 Main Street LLC is the corporation that bought it. Me and Steve McDonald, who's also an attorney in Carver, bought it together. Bought the old Bridgewater Savings Bank, remodeled it. We went to the sign company. They developed a sign that fits the frame that's already there. It'll have 3 plates. During the remodel, we put in 3 offices. Well, there was already 2 offices in the lobby in the lobby aspect of the bank. We put 2 offices in. So now it has 3 offices and a conference room. We plan on renting out that 3rd office eventually. So what the sign has is the ability to have all 3 offices advertised. So those plates go, I think they're 2 feet wide or 2.
Yep.
And then whatever the length of the sign is, Jack's got the
They all have that.
description. So if somebody comes and goes, we can just remove that plate and add the other one. Other than that, the sign stays the same. They're gonna paint the existing frame from that aqua blue color to black. The sign will be black with white lettered.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Will.
are you planning on having this illuminated?
The lights were there that lighted up.
There's landscape lights.
So there is
landscape light.
landscape
Yep.
lighting? No, I think it looks good for me. I'm really happy to hear that you guys took over the building and are gonna revive it, because it's a critical piece of property in our town. And I'm really glad that it's you guys. I think that's good. So I have no problem with the sign myself. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else have any
Questions looks fine.
questions or concerns? Oh, I think that sign looks great. And it'll be nice to have that building occupied again.
Yeah, we tried to keep the existing frame and everything and not change it. It was a good location. That green area, we want to leave it the way it is. I mean, I think that whole area is nice for the town. I mean,
Are you gonna keep it landscaped the way it is, or are you gonna add
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
of
I
color
mean, we
to
went in
it?
and weeded, we cleaned it up. I mean, the bank basically kept it in good shape
Yeah.
while we were gone. But like I said, you know, going in, doing the spring cleanup, remulched it. They took the flagpole down. We're putting a new flagpole up. It's supposed to be up this week for the holiday weekend. Steve's a retired Marine, so you know, he wants to get it up for the weekend. So we have that coming in. And like I said, hopefully we can open up the doors, hopefully, you know, beginning of June.
Wonderful.
Well, provide a service to the town, hopefully.
Your office is what, the old safe?
Right next to it, right across. And we actually see who comes and goes in it.
Perfect.
Put the Marine out front and then me right there. So I'm behind the line, you know?
There you go. He'll protect you.
They
No
always send
worries.
the Marines in first.
They always do.
Get through the Marine first.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign permit for 100 Main Street with the following conditions: landscape lighting, and they don't need a building permit, right? It's already
If
pre-existing.
necessary, how about if necessary? I don't think they do, but just in case. I don't think you do.
I can check with.
Yeah, check with Maureen.
Maureen
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion with conditions. Do I have a second?
Second that.
I have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Go
So I
get
can
'em.
just pick it up tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 9. Yes,
I can
10. Sorry. pen.
What about sometime tomorrow?
Yes,
Good luck,
All
Dirk.
right, thanks.
luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Passing along your pen.
We'll be bumming for the rest of the night. I always steal one from your desk. There we go.
All right, we go on to new business B, receipt of plans, Form C, Rocky Meadow Development Corporation.
Mr. Reum is here from Prime Engineering. And this is a Form C, it's a definitive subdivision. We've been through this property at least in 5 iterations. And this might be the 6th, I think. I might be losing count, I'm not sure. But this has got more permits, it's driving our filing system nuts, to tell you the truth. But I'll let Rich explain more than I can.
Essentially, it's a 3-lot subdivision, two buildable lots and one 31 a conservation lot that has a retention basin on it that'll hold the entire 100-year storm and infiltrate it into the ground, so there's no increased runoff, meets all of the stormwater standards the town has. It's only a 350-foot-long cul-de-sac road that meets Carver's subdivision standards.
So because this is a Form C, this will have to have a public hearing, and we'll have a technical review committee meeting. Yeah, sorry.
Do you have a date check?
Well,
for
I'm
public
gonna
hearing?
suggest, we do, June 18th. Are you here?
Yeah, it's during the week. I'll be back by then.
I'm suggesting June 18th at 7:15.
I have one question. Is this the same property that where the approved solar system's going?
Yes, it is.
Any reason why we're doing a Form C? When you already started construction on a solar
The-
development?
A Form C freezes the...
I know the reason behind that. I
Zoning.
just wanted to know why he was coming back doing that. Is he thinking that he's not gonna proceed with the solar system?
Oh, no, not at all. The solar system bylaw that was passed recently has extreme setback requirements, so that it would diminish the size of the solar field considerably. By filing Form C, we can rely on the previous zoning standards, which is exactly what you approved. So that by filing this Form C allows the development to be constructed exactly as it was approved by the planning board.
Okay. Make a motion to set the public hearing for Rocky Meadow Development for June 18th at 7:15.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will distribute the plans to the department heads. Did Sean already get to it? I believe he did.
Yes, Sean,
our
yeah.
engineer. And I'll set up the TRC. I'll let you know. I don't know yet.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
very good, thank you.
Okay, also under new business, we have C, receipt of plans of Form A on Plymouth Street, Antoni.
This is well, it's currently 2 lots, I believe, and they're making it into 3. I believe you have the plan. I don't. I do. Yes, I do. This is near Godfrey Circle. I actually did a site visit there today. Yeah, it's 2 lots right now, and they're gonna asking to subdivide it into 3. It has 150 feet of frontage, and upland meets the bylaw. There is wet in the back, as you can see, especially with the proposed Lot 1 and a little bit of Lot 2. It's a little hilly in the beginning, but it's, you know, the litmus test for access to lots is it can't be illusory. In other words, it has to be a real access, and I think this is. I mean, there's nothing blocking access to this. So it's only a receipt. If you have any questions, I can pass it on to the surveyor or the owner or proposed owner, but they'll be in on June 4th for consideration of endorsement.
Okay.
Let me know if you have anything.
Looks like it's pretty straightforward.
Can't get much more straightforward than that.
As long as it meets the zoning requirements, and it does, so. All right. Oh, so did we set a date for that?
It's not a hearing.
Oh, it's
So
not a hearing.
your policy is to receive it, and then the next meeting consider endorsement.
Okay. So it's not yet 7:15, so we want to go to planning board notes. Do we have any? Anything that I'd like to discuss?
I'm all set.
Anybody? Well, let's go to planner's notes then.
I went to a very lengthy Board of Selectmen's meeting last night. I think I got out of here at 11:15 PM. They did not consider any of the articles, including the petition articles. They're gonna wait until they hear what you guys do tonight. But, what else? But they did approve the budget. So that's gonna move forward to town meeting. So that's kind of what I have to report there. I am still working with ServPro, who's on Commerce Way. I met with their broker today. We're narrowing down some lots. They are serious about moving. I guess they're temporarily leasing some additional space on Commerce Way, and they're looking at the lot on Marion Drive, the other lot. They're looking at the Leary property. They're looking at Jack Williams' property. They want to stay in Carver, and they're a good business for Carver. He's a great guy to work with. I've worked with him on the business roundtable and other things.
His
Ken-
business is exploding.
Oh, it is? Yeah, well, there you go.
He's done well. He's a good business.
Yeah, I find that too. So working on that. In your packet, you're gonna see a sign application that the board did back in August of 2012. This is for Dunkin' Donuts. And as you can tell, this is your typical sign application, that the only condition you put on this was a building permit, which you do many times. I got a phone call that indeed the signs they put up are exactly what they asked for, except that it looked like they were proposing for it to be internally lit, which is not allowed in the town of Carver unless you get a variance from the ZBA. As you know, we've been through it a million times. And that's why everybody comes in with either landscaping lights like Mr. Eldridge had, or the gooseneck, or the back, what are they? Halo backlit lights. So I had a discussion with the architect and the owner. They were under the impression that you allowed internally lit, and that when you gave this permit, it inherently gave them permission to do internally lit. I told them that is not the case. The board doesn't have the authorization to allow internally lit. I'll save some of the dialogue, but we went back and forth and back and forth. I just told him, he asked that I would bring it up to you, and so that you know this, he's gonna have a couple choices here. He either can install gooseneck, halo, or floodlights, or he can go to ZBA, or both. But you don't have the authority, so.
Through you, Mr. Chair. On the design that he gave us, didn't it indicate there was gooseneck lighting on that?
Well, that's what do you have that folder, please? I'll pass it around. This is what's in the folder, And there's nothing in there that indicates any interior lights. In fact, the examples he shows has gooseneck lights. But it's not written on your decision. I don't recall it. I guess we can go to the minutes and look. But he claims he did submit internal lights. It's not in the folder. We might have been in between secretaries back then. I'm not sure now. But the bottom line is, you don't have the authority anyway.
Says right on the application, under the note, notch outs for goosenecks may be required, done in the field at time of installation.
There you go.
So it's right on the application.
And there's, you can
design.
see them right on the top there. See it?
That's easy enough.
I thought, I was under the impression that, from what I can remember, it was gooseneck, so. And that's what I'd like to see.
So that's probably why, because it was in the package.
So you didn't have to put anything on there. I suspected that, we have a great I have a great relationship, and I know the planning board does with the owner, so it's not,
I know I
this is
do.
not an adversarial thing, it's just, he's disappointed, obviously. And I reminded him that he has 2 other Dunkin' Donuts, and none of them have interior lights, they all have goosenecks, so it's not like this is news to anybody.
Yeah.
So, I promised him I would bring it up to you.
Well, I'd just say, reiterate what's on the plan that he submitted.
Okay, so.
I'm not looking for anything unless, I promised to bring it to you, and I, honor that.
Yeah.
That's,
And they are getting ready to open on,
they're opening next Tuesday at 5:30 a.m., I know that you'll be there.
yes, I will.
That's late for you, though, I know.
That's okay. Chad smiles because normally I pass him.
All right, it is past 7:15, and so we'll go on to old business, and we'll do the public hearing for the road acceptance of Marion Drive.
Marion Drive, we've just been talking about it, is where SLT and MBO are. As I know I've told you, they have entered into a purchase and sale with Agway to purchase a lot in front of them. One of the conditions is that the road be accepted. In your packet, you'll see a little schematic of the subdivision, and you'll also see a punch list. It was paved on Saturday. I did go up there and inspect it, and Sean did as well, and has a punch list. What is it, 19,000? No,
$13,000.
$13,000 of work is left, but you currently have a covenant on Lot 1 anyway, and that's about $415,000. So you're well covered on this punch list, and I had an email just before we came up here from Mr. Opatinsky, the brothers that own it, and they're gonna finish that punch list in 2 weeks, so it is a public hearing, but I don't see any issue here.
All right, as long as they intend to do those things.
You might wanna read the public hearing notice, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the public hearing notice, the Carver Planning Board in conjunction with the road commissioners will be holding a public hearing on May 21st, 2013 at the Carver Town Hall Meeting Room 1 to receive comment regarding the following street acceptances, which will be presented at the annual town meeting on June 3rd, 2013. 7:15 PM to accept as a public way Marion Drive as shown on the plan entitled As-Built Acceptance Plan Marion Drive, and also to acquire or accept as a gift the land containing the roadway as described by deed, as well as any related easements. Any persons interested and wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place indicated. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey Chair. Published date, May 3rd, 2013, and May 10th, 2013. All right, I guess if there's anybody out there that would like to say anything.
Robert Belvin, 26 Kate Street. Has Bill Halligan checked this property, this roadway out and given his authority, his personal seal of approval for it.
Yes, Bill went up there Saturday when they paved.
Oh, he did, okay.
Excellent. That's all I had to say. I respect him, so I want to make sure that before we do anything, that we get his approval.
That's what we do every time. This is just for the public, this is the road. It's a short cul-de-sac, industrial cul-de-sac. This is where SLT is, MBO. This is the lot for Agway, and then this is the lot that MBO uses for storage.
So they still have to come up with the finished as-built plan.
And the land planning will have that next week.
Perfect. Mr. Chair, make a motion to close the public hearing on the road acceptance for Marion Drive.
Here, a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to town meeting the road acceptance for Marion Drive.
Here, a second?
Second.
Motion and second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that plan will be ready before town meeting, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, at 7:20, under old business, E, we have a public hearing for proposed zoning amendments, changes to definitions and accessory apartments by citizens petition.
You also have the moratorium that's inherent in there as well. So we might as well start with the citizens petitions first. In your packet, you'll see the two citizens petitions, but you'll also see the existing definitions that are in the bylaw. You had asked me to get a legal opinion about these proposed definitions, which you'll see in your packet. I also got comments from the Board of Health and from the assessor, and I can tell you, I did talk to the building commissioner, and he's not thrilled with the definition of bathroom, but it wasn't a big deal. I never heard from the plumbing inspector. I did provide that to him. I can paraphrase the legal opinion. It essentially says, it's getting close to pushing, what, in his opinion, the law, but in his opinion, it would be legal, and the AG's office would approve it, and I sent you that, I hope you read that. Board of Health, he doesn't really see a jurisdiction of his in this issue. And the assessors, as I said, has said that regardless of whether this bylaw is passed or not, has no determination on how they assess accessory or additions or anything else, so. I don't know if that helps you.
Does anybody have anything, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just reading Mr. Golrosen's statement here, underneath the second, second section here, where he states, in most of particular, the last line, however, as noted below, the proposed definitions poses issues of internal consistency as well as consistency with related state regulations in his opinion. So it seems like he's talking about the same thing that we have already, so he doesn't, unless I'm interpreting this
What he's saying is that
correctly.
nothing that Mr.
Mr.
Belvin's
Belvin's-
proposing, in his opinion, violates the law or pushes,
Right.
but it's getting close.
Yep.
Because you can't exceed you can exceed the number of people that habitate in one house, but you shouldn't get more than 6 or less than 6. And you start dealing with non-relatives and things like that, you start pushing the envelope, so to speak. And what his concern was, and I know Bob has an amendment to this, is some of the inconsistencies with what a family is and what's allowed in his proposed family addition. and where one says one thing and the other says another. And I know Bob has some amendments he wants to suggest to that. But if you read the end, the petition articles have the apparent intent of allowing
Bless you.
more than one kitchen in a dwelling unit with such a unit to retain the status of a single-family unit. There are potential inconsistencies within the articles and among the definitions,
Bless you.
those compared to those in the state building code. He also says it seems the objective of the petition's articles is to allow in-law apartments in or attached to a single-family home as an alternative approach would be to, and an alternative approach would be to propose a separate article to amend the bylaw for that purpose that does not involve redefining family and dwelling unit, which is what I was trying to get at the first hearing. You know, I don't know. I know Mr. Belbin has some amendments, but
Maybe you might want to go through those amendments, and
Yeah.
then we can have some.
I actually handed you guys a thing you can follow along with. I placed there, the first thing is what's the planning board's duties here. I just want to make it clear, because I think it's get skewed sometimes of what your job role is as the planning board.
I think I'm clear on that.
Okay, I just wanted to, basically, your job is just to hold the public hearing for the public to speak. That's what it basically says. All right, what's the intent of zoning? It's to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. It's the bottom line. Under Chapter 40A, Section 3, it says, "No zoning ordinance or bylaw shall regulate or restrict the interior area of a single-family residential building, nor shall any such ordinance or bylaw prohibit," da-da-da-da-da, other stuff about towns and governments and education. Then on the bottom it says, "Provided, however, that such land or structures may be subject to reasonable regulations concerning the bulk, height, structures, in determining yard size, lot area, setbacks, open space, parking, and building coverage requirements." Reviewing that first part there, no law or regulation says that you can't have two kitchens in a single-family home. And basically what happens in your single-family home is your business, not the government's, number one. With that being said, under law opinion from Ernest Bach Senior v. the town of Edgartown, where they determined that he could have 3 kitchens in his single-family home. One of the things I'd like to let you guys know is that, don't know if you guys are cooks, but I am. And if I cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, and my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, all right, she's Italian, she cooks lasagna and meatballs and everything. You really can't cook a turkey and lasagna in the same oven,
they're getting hungry.
okay? So therefore, by having 2 stoves in a single-family home is legitimate. Plus, for religious purposes, i.e. if you have a kosher kitchen and a non-kosher kitchen, you would need 2 kitchens for that. One of the confusing parts of this, when you say kitchen facilities and kitchens, our bylaws, under definitions, says cooking. If you take the literal sense of cooking, it's a stove. But, as the attorney mentioned, this health and safety code, our bylaws here do not reference the health and safety code of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in our bylaws. The building code, yes. The state law, yes, but not specifically the health and safety code. And if you look under the health and safety code here, which is Chapter 2, okay, 410. Okay, kitchen facilities was 100. We already did that last town meeting, developed that into it. This stuff here says what you can and can't have. Now, my proposed changes for this bylaws, I took what you guys said at the last meeting, thought it over, and says, no, kind of have it right. So let me make a couple of minor changes here. Okay, and on the 3rd page, all right, it says proposed bylaw with the changes here. What I did is I took out dwelling, and I took from the whole definition, so it would just say family addition. I then changed to may include, instead of to include, may include. Under the requirements, it says only one electrical meter. I added one septic and one water meter, okay? So those are the proposed changes on there, okay? I think that comes into place under the family addition. Under the health and safety code, where it says dwellings, it actually says under, it's really interesting. You read kitchen facilities, bathroom facilities, water supply, hot water facilities, heating facilities, provisions for oil, lighting and electrical facilities, metering and electrical gas, installation and maintenance of facilities, asbestos material, installation and covering, exits, which is interesting, it has exits in here. But one of the most important ones, I think, here is security. All dwellings must be secure against unlawful entry. Entry doors to the dwelling, in the dwelling unit, and every opening door, exterior window must be secured against unlawful entry and fitted with a functional locking device. If you look under my proposed changes there that I put in, where it says, must be unrestricted access to all areas of single-family home. Unrestricted access, meaning no locks. So therefore, it wouldn't be a separate dwelling because there's no locks under family addition. So it wouldn't be a separate dwelling, it would be just an addition to the house. What my intent with this is the fact that families shouldn't be regulated of the size of the property. So if we look at the accessory apartment bylaw of what we have, which regulates accessory apartments to 1,000 square feet, says where the front doors could be, it says that you have to fill out an affidavit, all right? It has these requirements that limit someone's single-family home if you went through the accessory apartment. Accessory apartment can be used for family or non-family. Doesn't matter. That's what they're saying. Now, the intent of this is to set in place that family additions, which include a kitchen facility and bathrooms and bedrooms, okay, as long as they don't have locked doors in between, is an addition and it's not a accessory apartment. Now, the provisions that I also placed in there is that if the property owner wishes to use the family addition for non-family, he must go before the ZBA for change of use to an accessory apartment with possible limitations of size and occupancy. Therefore, it gives the zoning board direction that says, if you want to put a house on your lot with an addition for your family members that complies with our Carver bylaws, 2320 of the table of dimensions, that basically says 50 feet from the front of the house, 50 feet from the back. Okay, 30 feet from the side, right? Yeah, 30 feet from the other side. In between that block of area that you want to build a house, you want to build a house with an addition for your family members, and it's big, that's your right, as long as you don't violate these dimension requirements that we have set in place already. Now, I have an example here, is a house on Rochester Road across from Edaville Railroad. Here is a family that wanted to put an addition on their house. They have a big lot. You want to put a 3-car garage, huge addition, 2 stories. It's actually bigger than the main house that they had. They're a growing family. The building inspector wouldn't give them a permit. He said, nope, it could be an accessory apartment. Could be. They're putting an addition in. So they were forced to go through the zoning board. When they got to the zoning board, they turned around and said, this is an addition to our house. Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it is big. It's for our family members. Okay? I won't go through the personal nature of the intent for it, but the bottom line is that the zoning board said, you're right. It's an addition. Okay, go ahead. You don't need to be here. Why are you here? It's an addition. because it could be. During this hearing, of the Santos hearing, the chairman, and this is where family's gotta come into play here, the family definition. The chairman stated that this is just for the nuclear family. Right? The nuclear family. Basically what he's, mother, father, and children. That's what he's talking about when you say nuclear family. He's limiting that property to the nuclear family. I was there. I heard it come out of his mouth. I knew it was illegal.
Chair, I think that's all hearsay. We weren't at the hearing and it has nothing to do with the proposed bylaw changes.
Want to hear a recording of it?
I don't. What I would like to hear is what your specifics are for the bylaw that you brought in front of us again to bring to town meeting, Bob.
And-
You always keep going back to repetitive stuff. I don't wanna hear that. I wanna hear about the nucleus of what you're trying to bring to town meeting. Where's your changes, Bob?
Okay, I've already stated.
all I
under-
wanna hear.
Under family edition, I've already done that. All right, I've
Okay.
just told you what the changes would be. All right,
Yep.
for the main purpose of family, keeping the family unit together, okay, whether it be your mother, father, sister, brother, okay, your son, your daughter, your cousin, your niece, your nephew, all right, and even more versus City of East Cleveland, it even stated for that, all right. The intent here is that family should be able to live in a house together, whether they have one kitchen or two kitchens, doesn't matter about kitchens, okay? Because the health and safety code says you only have to have one. Doesn't say you're limited to one. It says you have to have one. What I'm doing here is allowing the opportunity that the zoning board can have guidance to say, is this an accessory apartment or is this a family addition? Because if it's a family addition, we have no control over that. You can do that, no problem. But bear in mind, if you're gonna use that for non-family purposes, you need to come back to the zoning board for an accessory apartment. Now, the monitoring of it, there was some concern before about monitoring. Well, the monitoring is, number one, probably the neighbors, number one. Number two is the assessors. I know perfectly that the assessors came to my house and said, hey, the assessor went to my house, she said one thing, okay? She went to the building inspector and said, hey, he may have an accessory apartment, okay? Well, guess what? Nothing happened from it, okay? But there is your, part of your thing, is that the building inspector then, he goes to the zoning board and says, do you want to go forward with this or not? In my case, they didn't. But the matter of fact is that the building inspector has the option of getting a search warrant, going into a house and searching the house to see if it violates the bylaws, which basically, is there a locked door from the main house to the addition? Okay, so I think I've beaten a dead horse on that part of it, all right? So I think I'm ready to, any questions about that?
Jack, go ahead. I have to say this, you know, I'm reading Mr. Belvin's document. I think that it's important if the planning board followed along here. In the first paragraph, what is the planning board's duty related to petition articles for town meeting? The planning board's job is to just notify the public and hold the public hearing to allow the public to comment on the article, see below. Nowhere does it say the planning board is supposed to vote on any such article. Then you go to the last page, and Mr. Belvin took the liberty of taking 48, Section 5, but he stopped. And I'm gonna read you where he stopped.
Where did I stop?
No vote to adopt any such proposed ordinance or bylaw or amendment thereto shall be taken until a report with recommendations by the planning board has been submitted to town meeting.
I took this from the
Come on.
state. Okay.
All right.
If I didn't do that, I'm sorry, but I printed that out.
All you had to do is call.
All you had to do is send me those things, but I'm not gonna argue with that. I didn't have those letters, you just sent me the one for the lawyer, you didn't send me the other ones,
I didn't have them electronically, to be honest with you, but I could have, yes.
We're working on it.
okay? So,
That's right, we're working on it.
We're working on it.
With that being said, I'd like to move on to the other main issue that came before us, was the definition of family. Okay, in there, it also says, some towns do not define family, and I listed a couple of them. I couldn't find any definition of family in their bylaws. All right, but I did put the ones that I did find that are local here, so you can take a look at it. And if you go to the second page, okay, right, under the talking points, I did put that case about the Santos, but, it says proposed changes to town meeting. What I have done is, in italics, I added foster children to adoption there. These are recommendations I'll be doing at town meeting. Okay, I've also added no more than 6 unrelated persons occupying a single-family home. That's in other bylaws also, under the definition. And I added the last sentence, the intent is to control density and to provide the health, safety, and welfare of the community. What I wanted to do with the family part with this is just to reiterate, all right? These are set up into sections, okay? Where family shall be defined as an individuals related by blood, marriage, or adoption / foster children. That's one set. That's where I'm referencing under the addition. That's what I'm referencing that. Up to 6 unrelated individuals cohabitating together due to handicap status. There was actually, under the legal thing, they had an issue with cohabitation for it. I did see that. Be happy to change that if you have any recommendations for that, if they don't like that. Cohabitating means you're habitating together. That's my opinion for it. 2 adults cohabitating together, including their blood or adopted foster children, as another section. No more, and it says adults, adults is 18 or older, and it doesn't mention any sex. It's just 2 adults. Okay, and then it says not more than 6 unrelated persons occupying a single-family home. I added that because it's in other ones, but I still have a concern with this, because if you put 6 unrelated people together, then you allow their children or sisters or brothers, and that's, I kind of have an issue with that. I mean, that was part of the issue I think Jack had, and about not having that, so, I don't know, that would be something that, I mean, would have to be dealt with at a later date, if it ever comes to that point, because then you could call it a rooming house or something like that. But that's what I'm gonna put in, because that kind of relates to everything. So that's under family. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, through you, Jack, this proposed changes at town meeting that Bob's suggesting,
Yep.
did we get that over to John?
No. I
Okay.
just got it, you're looking, well, Bob showed it to me, it was
Yeah.
pretty late last night,
That's
but I
all
didn't, he's getting closer,
Yeah.
he's getting there.
I mean, if you look at the other towns of what their
Yep.
definitions are, I took a little bit of all of them.
Yep.
I mean, the foster children I took from Middleborough. Marshfield, family, an individual or 2 persons related by blood or marriage living together as a single housekeeping unit, and including necessary domestic help. I didn't put domestic help, but it could. I mean, these are, like I
Yeah, I
said,
think-
these are standard, but I think the changes that I made really puts it into context. When you start looking at what ours is, a family shall mean a number of individuals living and cooking together on the premises as a single unit. Again, I mean, that's,
Well, it's a petition article that's gonna go to town meeting anyways. That being said, the residents are gonna make the decision of what the language is gonna be. The only concern I have is I'd like to have something that's going to be a little bit more concrete, already been screened by town council. So that way, when we go there, somebody's not gonna say to Bob, well, has this been screened and is it gonna be thrown out from, the state when it goes there if we go forward? Other than having the passion in town meeting move forward, I'd like to have something more concrete. That's why I asked the question, did you run it by John on this?
Not the changes.
Okay.
And actually, he actually mentions that in his letter, that he does not typically go over petition articles prior to a town meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not something
I
within
know, but
there.
I'm just trying to,
do.
this is what, the fourth time you've
This is
come
the
here?
first time I've come for
No, I mean,
family.
this whole. All right. This whole issue, you've come in front of us, so we're gonna go in front of town meeting. I'd like to either get a resolution at town meeting one way or another. Otherwise, we'll be back again next year.
Well, I mean, if you look at what the other definitions for other towns is,
Yeah,
all right?
I did.
You look at them and you say, well, you know what, I think I've kind of picked everything apart and really boiled it down to.
Definitely done that. Bob.
And I don't think council would have an issue with it, and I don't think the Attorney General's office. And it gets voted in, great. If it goes to the Attorney General's office and they throw it out, then it just reverts back to the old
I understand.
language of it.
I know
But
the
the bottom
process.
line is that
I just
You
think
don't
that there
wanna-
is some good that's in this that you've done, that you're proposing. I just hate to see us lose the good because of something that we can't do. Just trying to make,
Perhaps, I think I know where Will's going. You know, they have asked town council to comment on the petition article. That
just
you have-
looking for a comment, because we could give Bob some
So if
guidance
Bob
on,
could
they
get
say
me
you
a
can't do this.
clean copy with the changes italicized or emboldened, and email it to me, I can give it to town council, and they'd have plenty of time to give us some clearance on that, so to speak, and that
And we'd
way
be
it
able
would
to
be
provide
cleaner
it.
at town meeting.
For town meeting. Whether you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter, but at least we'd have some guidance there, other than saying, well, it's a petition article and it's gonna go to town meeting, okay. I'd rather have,
I'll be happy to submit it in. I just, like I said, if you look at all the other ones, I don't think there'd be an issue, to be totally honest with it. I think part of the issue that he did have is with the definition of family in relationship to the family addition, okay? I don't know if it wasn't relayed to him that that family addition goes with just that first main point of the definition of family in the context of the way the Supreme Court has come out in the definition of family is blood, marriage, or adoption. It does come into other categories of it, which I addressed here, but the main goal of family, and I shouldn't say goal, but the main idea of family is blood, marriage, or adoption. So,
this is great for this public hearing that we're going through all this. I think it's awesome, Bob, trust me. But at town meeting, we're not gonna have all this explanation of all this is what it says in, you know,
I'll be
this
happy to
town
put
versus.
together a PowerPoint
I
presentation.
understand, but at that stage of the game, people are gonna wanna know the exact specifics, and we wanna go into it with something clean. That's all I'm asking.
Well, like I said, this is what I'm gonna propose. I'm just gonna let
okay.
you know. But I will send Jack a copy of it so he can have it vetted
Make
if
sure
they
the
want.
changes are highlighted.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing I did here. I'll email it to you later on. Probably not tonight because need to sleep from last night.
If you want, I'll send it to town council for a final.
Sleep's overrated.
I'd like to ask a question, if you could, right now, if you have an accessory apartment or a family apartment,
Yep.
you have to go to the ZBA for
No,
approval.
if it's under 800 square feet and it meets some other criteria like the entranceway and some other things, it's allowed by right. If you exceed,
is?
yes, if
Okay.
you exceed any of those, then you have to go to ZBA.
But
So what does this do? I'm confused, because I
Okay.
thought that if it was,
the issue here is
What you're trying to do.
what's by right
yeah,
and what's not by right. To be bottom line, pure and simply, that's what it is.
so you can do it by right.
But you're limited to size and under our dimensions.
Oh, so you want to
Under the,
increase the
under the
size.
dimensions of our town bylaws here,
Yeah,
all right, which under chapter 48, section 3, here states, is that you want to build a house, it's got to follow the setbacks. It's got to follow the size and the height and the bulk, and that's what these do. And if you want to put an addition for your family members that's bigger than 800 square feet, and they want to call it an accessory apartment, but if it doesn't have locked doors and dwelling, all right, it's not a dwelling. And that's going by the health and safety code, which was brought up in the lawyer's letter.
Okay, so what you're saying is you wanna build something bigger than 800 square feet.
You should have that
and you don't
right.
wanna go to the ZBA to do that.
You should have that right if it's for your family members.
So basically, that's what this is all about, with a lot of definitions on how to,
Well, the definitions actually come into play when you start making everything the same. All right, so we have under dwelling, it says cooking. All right, well, cooking, if you're just saying a stove, and really, that's the interpretation by the zoning board, is cooking means your stove. But there's no law that says you can't have 2 or 3 stoves in your house.
do we have a restriction for how many kitchens you can have?
Well, the ZBA, I think, is taking it upon themselves.
That's the issue.
I think that's what Bob.
This would give guidance to the zoning board
And
and the
he's
building
not the only
commission.
person that I've heard complain about that, I must admit that.
So-
But that's none of your business, I mean.
But the bylaws here are to give guidance to the zoning board and the building inspector.
Okay, I think, as far as me, I just needed clarification on that, and I think if you were gonna bring this to town meeting, I think that that's an important issue to bring up too, why you're doing this and how it's gonna change things from the way it is now. Because
I mean, the setback requirements clearly come into play with this.
Yep.
They're very important, all right? That's gonna determine how big a house you have on a lot, okay? What you do on the inside of your house lot is your own, all right? We also, in the town, we don't have design standards of what a single-family home can look like, or a two-family home can look like, all right? And Rosemary, she was bringing up the issues with the assessing department. And I tried to explain that assessing and zoning are two separately distinct different
As long as it meets
things.
the building code, it doesn't matter.
All right, but that's what she was bringing up, is that she thought that everything should come together and be a nice, tight little package there. But as I've found personally, is that you're not gonna get it, because the zoning board has accessory apartment, but the zoning board has accessory apartment, but the assessors have single family with in-law. That's what it says. But if you look at the tax code, and I'm kinda going a little off here, but just, if you look at the tax code, you have single-family home and you have two-family home. And I have to say, there are some people that have gotten approval as an accessory apartment, which is attached or included to their home, all right? And the assessing department says you have a two-family home now, which now, in certain areas of the town, violates our bylaws to have it in.
Except, I gotta interject, but you just said that zoning and assessing are separate.
Right, but I mean, if you look at it, I mean, this is why you can't get it, my explanation was, you can't get a tight little ship and everything put in like this. Unfortunately, unless we get the state to come in together with us. But the bottom line is, we're here talking about zoning, and that's what we're here for, all
Okay,
right?
so can you present something, so you want something from him that's a
He'll
little
give me it,
cleaned
I'll
up
give it to
so
K and
that we
P,
can-
we'll just see how they
Okay.
feel about it. I think they're gonna say, yes, he's taking care of some of their concerns, and he's gotten farther away from the danger area, if you will. And that's
Just-
what I think they're gonna say.
I'd just like to go over a couple things, one more thing that's here on the definitions, okay? Under accessory apartment definition, I added not to be considered a two-family home. I thought that was really important, that under accessory apartment, that it's not considered a two-family home. I think that would help them in the long run, people that have accessory apartments, that they not be, in case something come up, because what's gonna happen is, if they go to refinance and they go through the same problem that I did, is the assessors say one thing and the building permit says something different, and then you're in a big quandary.
But remember, the assessor says it doesn't matter, so who knows?
Right, but that's not what the mortgage company's gonna say. And I go through the same stuff that I did. I mean, luckily, I fought and fought and fought, and I got what I wanted, but no matter what. I did put bathroom facilities here, which kinda, if you go through the health and safety codes here that has bathrooms, I kinda covered all that. Dwelling unit, I did, I added kitchen facilities, living, bathroom facilities, and sleeping facilities in there, trying to streamline everything to go along with the health and safety code that we have in the Commonwealth. Like I said, it doesn't say in our bylaws that we recognize the health and safety code. It would be great if we did. I think that would turn around and cover a lot of this stuff, to really know that we have definitions, not only here in our bylaws, but we can use these definitions too. And then the other thing, the dwelling and two-family, to remove that because we have duplex and two-family dwelling in there. Talked about family already. A single-family home, a single dwelling unit used for family can include multiple kitchen facilities using one electrical meter in there. And then what I did is, under definitions, I took out family dwelling addition, I took the dwelling part, so it just says family addition. Those would be the minor changes that I would make, just to streamline everything together. And I will send that to you too. All right, so I think I've taken up tons of your time here.
And it is a public meeting, so if there's anybody out there that would like to,
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
listening to me.
okay. Anybody else have anything to say? Seeing nobody come up?
The next one is the
You wanna move on
moratorium
this one,
on the
or you wanna
medical
hold it?
Pardon me?
You wanna move on the public hearing on the proposed changes?
They're under the same public.
They're
Oh,
under the
yeah,
same.
I apologize.
The only thing, I was asked by, actually, Rosemarie, who's not here, she was concerned about how this moratorium would be, if it goes into effect, would any A&R plans protect someone from kind of slipping through the cracks? And you'll see a legal opinion, and she had asked that, and the town administrator approved me getting this, that it should not have any impact on allowing someone to slip through the cracks through zoning protection. Other than that, I did make a presentation to the selectmen last night, though they didn't vote. I could tell that they're very much in favor of this. The police chief is obviously anxious to get this.
Would anybody like to speak about the medical marijuana?
All right. I'm all for the moratorium, but I think we should handle it the same way, and I think I've said this before, is handle it just like the adults section that we have in town. Similar to that, push it to one area, away from everyone for it. If we do go in that route, because what they're saying is you can't say, no, you can't have it, but you can turn around, regulate it to a certain area of the town or whatnot.
Well,
And I
this,
think that would be the best option.
right now, we're just discussing whether this will go to the town meeting as far as the moratorium. There'll be further discussion and committees set up to figure out what we're gonna do with this.
Will the
After
committee, is there a makeup of the committee of who's gonna be on it?
They
You know
have,
that
they
yet?
have, they have asked me to do several department heads, which I've gotten them to agree. I know Rosemary's pretty anxious. I'm hoping you appoint her when it's time, and I know Mr. Belbin has recommended 2 residents, which I'm sure you won't have a problem with. But I think they're gonna wait till after town meeting and
Okay.
then organize that.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
You can close.
now we can close.
Motion to close on the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendments and also the zoning amendments, excuse me, and the moratorium.
Do I hear a second? Second. A motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye.
Make a motion to table the petition article until we get some more information from council.
Have a motion to table the petition article for the zoning change.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye. And
And
I'd like to make a motion to recommend endorsing the medical marijuana moratorium for town meeting, please.
have a motion, second? Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's well past 7:30, going on 8, so we can go on to a public hearing for the proposed zoning map amendment for Federal Road. This is a continuation, right?
Well, it is and isn't. I did ask you to continue the last one, but there was a glitch in the public hearing notice, so I also re-advertised. So if you would read the public hearing notice, it'd be helpful. We have the esteemed Mr. Attorney Winiker here.
Okay, I'll read the public hearing notice, Town of Carver, Office of Planning and Community Development. Public hearing notice in accordance with the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5. The Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 21st, 2013, at 7:30 PM at the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1. The purpose of the hearing is to consider an amendment to the zoning map from residential agriculture, otherwise known as AG, to industrial A, or IA, for parcels located on Federal Road and identified on the assessors maps as map 131, lot 4-2, and the entirety thereof, and lot 4-3, map 131, lot 2-4, portion thereof. A copy of the proposed zoning map amendment is on file at the town clerk's office and may be inspected during normal business hours. Any person interested and wishing to be heard on the proposed changes should appear at the time and place designated. Bruce Mackey, Chair, Carver Planning Board. Published dates May 3rd, 2013, and May 10th, 2013. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come in before you to present this to you. My name is Lawrence Winiker. For the record, I represent A.D. Makepeace Company. With me tonight is Mr. George Rogers from the company, Senior Vice President, and Bill Madden from GAF Engineering, I'm sure whom most of you know. The handout that I just submitted to you, I'll just go through it with you very briefly. The top page is the public hearing notice. The second page depicts the property in question in light yellow. Sorry, it's a little dull, but it's the best I could do. The next page is the zoning sketch, which shows again, the area in question and some of what's on there. And the next sheet is a proposal fact sheet, which I'm going to ask Mr. Rogers to go through with you shortly. The next sheet is the legal description for the property. Again, another sketch, the layout on the next sheet. Next, you will find two letters from Van Ness and Associates with respect to their traffic study and the supplemental study dated in February of this year. Excuse me. There's a letter from Ocean Spray in favor of the zoning change, and of course they own part of this property in question. And lastly is a printout from the Town of Carver Assessor's Office indicating the amount of money on rollback taxes that would have to be paid if all of this goes through. Makepeace owns approximately 199 acres and Ocean Spray 102 acres, which comprises the property in question. They're currently zoned residential agricultural, and they're shown on the compiled assessors map, which I've submitted to you in the handout. The property is situated on the southeasterly side of Federal Road in an area perhaps best described as remote insofar as residences are concerned. Makepeace would like to develop a soil excuse me, mining facility on its on its land, which is prohibited in an RA zone but allowed by special permit from you in the proposed rezoned property. This would be subject, of course, to your extensive review, as all other special permits are. Ocean Spray has indicated its agreement to the rezoning of its land by virtue of the letter that I submitted to you. We have engaged the traffic engineering firm of Van Ness and Associates to submit the report that I gave you as supplemented on any traffic impacts, including directional trip distribution and traffic increases anticipated by the proposed use. Essentially, their conclusion is that there would be a minimal increase in traffic and no material increase in motorist delays or queuing on Federal Road, Cranberry Road, or intersections, and that's taken directly from their reports. The town planner, and I believe this board, has been consulted at every step of this process, and the board has kindly indicated that its willingness to sponsor the article at town meeting. We have submitted the projected rollback tax information, as I just indicated, and that's over $21,500, which would go into the town coffers. The zoning amendment process is outlined in Chapter 40A, Section 5, and has been followed to the T, as usual, by Mr. Hunter. Now, I'd like to ask Bill Madden to briefly go through and highlight the site itself on the board that he's brought with him, and then introduce Mr. Rogers.
Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Bill's asking where to put the map. We've upgraded, Bill. We can go anywhere. Not upgraded enough for Mr. Sinclair, but we have upgraded.
I always want more.
You will need a microphone, though.
Yes, you have to.
All right, I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of AD Makepeace Company. And the presentation board in front of you represents the land we're seeking to have rezoned from residential A to industrial A. And you can see from the yellow boundary shown in the plan that essentially it follows the layout line of Federal Road in a north and southerly direction. On the east side of the project, it follows the town line between Plymouth and Carver on the Wankinko River. So we chose those two locations because they're well defined. They're already laid out as far as Federal Road goes. The town line being the river is in existence, so it didn't involve a tremendous amount of survey work. It was readily identifiable. We thought that it made a certain degree of sense to define the parcel as such. On the north side, we essentially parallel the major property line of Ocean Spray Cranberries, and we intersect an existing dike road, and we travel in a southerly direction along that dike road back into the Wankinko River. So that essentially completed the 301 acre block of land that we're seeking to have rezoned. The portion of the assessor's lots identify the land as lot 4-3, Ocean Spray is 4-2, and then the larger tract of land is lot 2-4. That's, I don't know, it's 500 or 600 acres, something along those lines, perhaps larger. But when the description was made, it was the portion of lot 2-4. So that's the piece that essentially is bounded by 4-3, the back side of Ocean Spray, the north side of Ocean Spray, the Wankinko River, so it kind of fit nicely between the well-defined and known boundaries. The portion of the land that they're seeking to build the soil blending facility is roughly 29 acres, and it's this 29-acre parcel, or portion of the parcel, that runs in a north and south direction in parallel to the Wankinko River in the backside of the Ocean Spray property. That site was subject to a previous earth removal. It's been prepared in a manner that's essentially set up for a pad for construction, and Attorney Winokur outlined the details associated with the 29 acres, and that's pretty much it. As far as what I have for the boundary of the parcel.
I'm going to ask Mr. Rogers for his overview of the plans and the project, including the projected tax, revenue, and the CPA fees, as well as the minimal impacts on the neighborhood and the town. I should say that we met a couple who are abutters, thought they were abutters. They live on Cranberry Road. They're not actually abutters. And before the meeting tonight, we did review the plan, and I think they're going to tell you, I don't want to speak for them, that they're comfortable with it and that will not impact them. But I'll let them speak for themselves. George?
Good evening, Chair and committee members. I'm George Rogers, Senior Vice President, AD Makepeace Company. The intent here to begin with was we wanted to locate our business in Carver. We looked at numerous sites in Carver. We worked with Jack on some other stuff, and it didn't come to be. So we looked for previously disturbed sites, so there'd be minimal impact. And it came to us that probably that, you know, with the landfill there and the Ocean Spray Complex, kind of industrial type area, that would make sense to do that. So that's why we picked that site there. The intent is to build multiple buildings to store clay, sand, leaf compost, mixing pads, a roof area to mix and keep things dry in the rain when we're mixing, a scale house, some sort of small office and stuff. Only the office, probably if the office is located down on the southern end of the site, would be visible from the road. The rest of it would be up in that, behind the Ocean Spray plant, which is probably about a 30-foot elevation above where we would be, so it wouldn't be visible from the road. And this 300 acres is only 5% of the 6,000-acre contiguous parcel that Makepeace owns in the area, so we're kind of trying to get into the middle of it to be away from the neighborhoods and stuff. So it's going to consist of multiple buildings. At full build-out, we're estimating the value could exceed $5 million, which could generate over $100,000 in tax revenue to the town of Carver. I'm not going to project that the first year. We will build it in phases as the need comes to be, but the business is growing. Part of this project is another project across the river in Plymouth that we've passed the state MEPR. We have the certificate for that. We've got to go to the town of Plymouth, but that's a big, probably the largest cranberry project in the Commonwealth of 140 acres. There'll be considerable earth removal associated with that, and a lot of that will go right through that building there to be turned into golf mixes, green roofs, ball fields, etc. So we really want to work in Carver and hope this passes town meeting.
No, we visited the site, and I thought it was an excellent area for this type of development, and actually, it wouldn't hardly be seen by anybody even going down the road. I think the big concern was just the traffic going down the road. There was traffic concerns there at the beginning, but I think you've answered those. Anybody else have anything to say? Will?
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just to be clear for the residents at home, because we're looking at rezoning down there. This is a pre-existing business in Canton right now, and you're looking to come to Carver and to move that business 100% here. So you're looking at adding jobs and, like you had said, at full build-out, maybe an additional $100,000 in taxes at full build-out. Okay. Could you talk just a little bit and give the people at home a little bit about the, what the processing of the material, what you can say green roofs to me, I understand what that means, or ball fields and that process. What your product, the end product really is, in the marketable product is gonna be made there. So if you could do that for the residents at home and give them a better understanding why we think, well, me personally think that it's a good opportunity for the town.
I think probably the best visual I could give you would be Fenway Park. The infield at Fenway Park is made from Makepeace sand and a special clay that comes out of Pennsylvania, and it has a mixed ratio. Fenway Park gets this mix. A Little League would get more sand, less clay. That's something that people could relate to. Golf courses, sand traps, the sand for them. Green roofs, which are lightweight, roof aggregates, shale, etc., for lightweight roofs. Other ball fields, the infields, the loam for the infields. We do bagged products also. Golf is a big big part of it, golf and ball fields. Green roofs is a small amount. We have what we call CU soil, which is Cornell University, for pathways, bike paths, et cetera. So almost any type of specialty soil an entity would want, we could mix for them. And usually they would, the architects, landscape architects, would give us the specs on it, and we would mix it together, basically a ratio of sand to compost to loam, or clay to sand, or whatever the components are. It's spec'd out, we build it to spec by mixing it with front-end loaders and machinery.
Perfect. And could you talk a little bit about the size of the buildings that are proposed there? I know that it's in stages, but it'll be, you're not gonna be able to see it from the road anyways, but just to reiterate to the public, you know, the size of the buildings that you're looking to put there, because that has a value also.
The buildings would probably be about 7,000 square feet each, and the inside height would be approximately 25 feet. And whatever the zoning, I don't know if the zoning is 40 feet or 35.
Yep.
But we would need about 25 feet on the inside. And they're basically going to be probably metal frame like the old space buildings, just shells basically to keep materials dry and secure, the raw product and the mixed product. There'll be an area for golf, there'll be an area for baseball. We have landscape architects are calling for a lot of materials to stay dry now. So in the clay that comes from Pennsylvania, we have to keep that dry. So it's more to keep them dry, keep them separate, so they're not mixed up. And then there'll be asphalt pads or concrete pads to do the mixing on.
So most of this is done on the interior of the buildings and everything's stored on the interior of the buildings?
No, the manufacturing will be done outside under a canopy
Got
and
it.
stored into the buildings.
Okay.
They'll be doing the mixing outside. At some point, we'll probably buy a blending machine that'll blend everything, which is just a machine that has different hoppers and different ratios.
Perfect. I thank you very much for the explanation for people at home. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? It's a public hearing, if anybody else would like to speak.
How you doing? Sean Bogart, 116 Cranberry Road. We did speak with these gentlemen earlier, and they were very helpful and friendly and looked to be good neighbors. So, again, we're not necessarily abutters by rule, but we are just to the north side of the Wankinko Bogs. We can see Ocean Spray from where we live. There's a small development there. I'm sure you know the area. We had asked about maybe some things we were concerned about, maybe like lighting at night. Ocean Spray has lights on at night during harvest season, which we can see. They're off, of course, in the off season, but that's okay. So, small concerns. I think at this point we're, comfortable. We don't think, of course, that we will see anything. It is further to the south from our neighborhood there. The only other couple things that we did come up with, and thank you for this piece of paper so I could write my notes. We're curious if the facility itself is only going to be 29 acres. Why do they need 300 acres to be changed to industrial? Just kind of curious. Is there a long-term plan? Things like that. Another thing that I did come up with was where that, let's see, where that northern border is, there is some tree lines there. We did talk about some dust, which didn't seem to be a big issue, but noise travels very well. We can hear Ocean Spray at times. Sometimes we can't. I think it depends on the day, the humidity, the weather, I don't know. So that being said, if this is going to be a daily operation, now you did say this was like it's kind of like in a, I'm curious what the terrain is, and is there going to be some sort of, knoll basically on that northern border that'll be maintained? Is there going to be a tree line maintained to to almost act as a natural sound barrier for our residents. So those are the only two questions I have. They keep maintaining that border on the north edge and, you know, just again questioning the size of the lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first question, the size of the rezoned parcel is 100 acres of that is the Ocean Spray Complex, and we spoke to them while we were doing this because we were kind of circling them, and they agreed that that made sense, so that's 100 out of the 300. And if you look, you will see that in that area that we're talking about, there's those rectangular bogs of 5 acres each, there's 25 acres of cranberry bogs, there's wetlands there. We needed road frontage, obviously, to do this, so we wanted to use the existing road, and that's why we did it to the south. And if the business were to grow more and there was more needs, we could go to the west, south of the Ocean Spray Complex. We do have an area there to grow in the future. But it's just, we follow the town line with the river to keep it simple, as Bill mentioned, and because of the Ocean Spray Complex. So we don't need 300 acres, but with the frontage and everything we felt, and that's why we put it across the north too. If there was an issue about a dead-end road or something, that we would have access out the other end if we needed to, if that became an issue. With regards to the knoll there, yes, there is the existing spot that has had an earth removal previously. The elevation of that is probably 30 feet below the Ocean Spray site to the west, and going to the north, we're probably climbing up 15 to 20 feet. So that is a depression where we're gonna be locating the buildings. The roofs you wouldn't be able to see them. If there was no woods at Ocean Spray, you wouldn't be able to see the roofs there. And on the north end, we would maintain that. So it is in a depression, and it is bordered all the way around, which would take care of any light, sound, et cetera, and we would maintain that, because that's what we want to be, out of sight, out of mind, basically. So that's one of the reasons that we put it down in there.
So you wouldn't have to disturb any of the tree line that's already there. Would you be adding anything to it for, say, them down the road if they were concerned about it?
If we had to do something on the north there with a road or something, then yes, we would put trees or something there to buffer that out, but there's no intent to remove any more trees at this point. That's why we picked that site. We can use the existing roads, we can use the existing site where we had the earth removal previously to store materials and build the buildings.
Maybe council can answer this. Would Jen and Sean be legal abutters because the parcel's so large?
If they, under the zoning definition, if they're within 300 feet of the lot line, so that lot is, and abutters would be within
Right,
300
I think
feet.
they might be.
So I'm not honestly sure,
Yeah.
but they could be.
Yep. And my point, the reason I'm getting to this, Jen and Sean, is that if this passes at town meeting, when they come to their proposal, you'll be notified by the planning board. And that's when the planning board can condition certain things like a tree line. We could even ask them to do a little elevation plan. It's very easy for Vanessa Hagan to do that, or GAF or whoever, so that we can really prove site distances and things like that, and whether you will really see the tops of the buildings, and we can do lighting and all the things that we do to protect the neighborhood. So you'll have a really good shot at the specifics of this if this passes town meeting at a later time.
Jim, in more direct response, they are abutters.
Yep.
Under the zoning definition, Bill points that out, so they would get noticed.
Yep.
All right, so, we have to make a motion to,
Anybody else from above?
oh, that's right, yeah, is there anybody else out in the, audience that would like to speak about this zoning change? Anything additional? No? Okay, seeing none.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment for Federal Furnace Road.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend endorsement of the proposed zoning amendments for Federal Furnace Road.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming,
you.
guys. Appreciate it.
The counselor, I know I told Mr. Cirque this, but the selectmen will be voting on their recommendations on Tuesday. I don't know the time yet, I haven't seen the agenda, but I guess I'll be there.
Thank you very much.
Just wanna make a note, well, you said Federal Furnace Road, it's
Did I? Federal Road.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there is a difference.
There's definitely a difference. Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll go on to G, public hearing continuance, South Coast Development, 303 Tremont Street, special permit site plan review for a gas station drive-through restaurant.
We've received revised plans. I think they have them with them. Fire department has given their okay with it. You'll see a very brief memo from Fuss and O'Neill, and I think they've addressed their concerns. And there's just two minor concerns I have that we'll need to discuss maybe after he makes his presentation.
I think George did that on purpose for me. He didn't type it.
That's perfect.
It was a good catch. Thanks. I have 3 sets of plans. Jack full-size sets, and I've made a couple of
These guys to
half-size
share.
sets if you want half-size.
I'll take one of those.
one with you, Will.
They're a little easier.
We'll share.
Thank you.
I'll take a half set.
Yeah.
The full sets are a little. Jack, you want?
Yeah, we'll need it for the file. Was this a duplicate? You guys can share this. You want to?
Thank you.
You can start without me, I just.
Good.
All right, I'll start, I guess. Essentially, we were before you several weeks ago when we first made our initial presentation to the board. And at that time, I think we were waiting to complete our review through the Conservation Commission and whatnot. And as of last, was it last Tuesday? Last Wednesday, the Conservation Commission approved the plan that we've revised and presented to them and to you tonight. One of the major things that we were encountering was some of the fire safety concerns that the fire department had. And as you might recall, they required a 12-foot wide access drive at the rear of the property. And due to some wetland issues and things of that nature, it was originally presented as an 8-foot drive, but after review with conservation, we were able to build that road a little wider and achieve the goal of meeting fire department standards. So essentially what you have is a roadway that's 24 feet in total width across the back. We have a 12-foot fire lane, 12-foot drive-through lane for future use. We also were able to move the building a little bit and cut a corner off of it so that we could provide the required queuing for future food service in the facility. So we were able to show a service window at the far left-hand corner of the building as we're viewing it from the street. We were able to show our 4 queuing spaces from the service window. The menu board requires to have 8 spaces behind the menu board that don't land within 60 feet of the property line. So we were able to show 6 spaces, or 8 spaces rather, that come down to something in the order of 67 or 70 feet away from the property line. So we're able to achieve that requirement of the bylaw for a drive-through. So that was really one of the major things, major plan changes that we had. We also, because of our involvement in dealing with the Conservation Commission, we were able to add a few additional parking spaces adjacent to where the underground fuel storage tanks were going to be constructed. So we now show 7 parking spaces over there in addition to the 10 that are across the face of the building. We also show parking underneath the canopy at the fuel dispensers because you will have people there getting gas, and that's effectively using a parking space. So those were the major changes that we had from the last plan. We did add a little bit of impervious surface. We did increase the area of our underground infiltration basin. The Board of Health, I think, brought up a good comment that our stormwater infiltration basin was less than 100 feet from the existing well on the site, so we made a little modification, shifted that a little to the west, and were able to accommodate Board of Health issue. So we had conservation issues that we were able to accommodate. We accommodated the fire department. We dealt with the Board of Health, so we think that we achieved pretty much everything that we were looking to achieve from a site planning point of view. We also relocated the dumpster pad. The dumpster pad was located over here, so we located it on the west side of the site. And that's pretty much the sum total of the revisions. We reorientated the plan, the tanks rather, the fuel tanks, but that was pretty much a limit of the changes. In concept, what we submitted the first time around was the first iteration, and this now represents the final plan. We also prepared a waiver request, and some of our waivers are really waivers associated with landscaping. The landscaping requirements under zoning are fairly stringent. I think they fit well for most uses. It's a little bit difficult to apply the landscaping features that are required to a site like this, given the fact that it's really, really tight. There's a need for vehicular circulation, pedestrian circulation, and access. And we did show some degree of landscaping, which we thought was fairly reasonable. We show planting across the front and the side. We are going to most likely plant this small band. One of the comments that Fuss and O'Neill brought up was there was some landscaping in the layout of Tremont Street, which will be removed. But we put a little cluster of plants over here by the easterly parking, some more plants down here. We've kind of limited them to grasses, seasonal grasses, and some daylilies, I think is what was called for here. And that was all because you folks brought up the issue of snow storage areas, where we're gonna put snow. So we thought that if we were able to keep some vegetation that is more seasonal in nature, it wasn't shrubby or bushy, that we'd be able to accommodate some of these areas for snow storage. So we did put some snow storage areas shown in the plan. We show an area here, we have a small area here, we have a small area over here, small area out back. Conservation didn't really care for a couple of the areas that we have designated as snow storage, and, you know, we told them that, you know, that in the event that we had to use a little more area for snow storage, it looks like these parking spaces on this side, on the east side of the site, might be compromised to a certain degree for snow storage. They wanted some snow storage over there because there was a catch basin, and in their mind, they would like the snow melt to enter directly into the catch basin, go to our oil grit separator before being discharged for recharge. And we took that concern of theirs to heart and told them that that's what we would try to do. We were hopeful that perhaps the planning board could condition it in some way that we would verbally describe what some of the snow storage areas would be in addition to what we had on the plan. So that was really one of the only things that I found that was not a conflict, but we weren't 100%, you know, dovetailing together on that element. But we do have the spaces shown on the site. We know that under extraordinary circumstances during extreme snow events, that, you know, we will have to, you know, load snow and move it off. But we think that there's enough area on site to deal with, you know, the normal small snowfall events we have here, with the exception of the big ones. So it's, this year was a different year. It's kind of challenging. So that's pretty much what the revisions of the plan were. I don't think you had too many more questions other than that the first time around, but certainly interested in answering any questions you may have now relative to the revision.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
The two front landscaping, right up front, the two round circles, you had made the comments that what's there is gonna be removed. Your proposal for anything there right now, it just looks like loom and sod,
That's what we have shown, yes.
and no other plantings?
We have not shown any on the plan, but we could carry through with this theme in that area. I think that the daylilies, grasses might be consistent, and I think that, I don't know.
We typically do annuals at every driveway, that's what we typically do. So if
I'm
you
look-
look at any of our stations,
Yeah.
that main island between the two driveways, most of that would be sod, and then the two ends in there closest to the driveways would be annual plantings, annual flowers.
Well, we definitely wanna address something like that. It's a streetscape effect that we've been pretty adamant about for, well, at least since I've been here. And we have a great opportunity with the quality of, the development to, address that issue down there, so. We wanna definitely look at that, Jack, and make sure that in the design, in the conditions that we address that landscaping issue right there. Okay? Other than that, seeing that I always jump on the mic first, I think that you've gone quite a distance from where we had started from. I'm really happy to see that we can make it all work, and I commend you for making the building a little bit shorter, moving it a little bit. I think that's great. The site in a whole, I think, will work really well. I am really happy that we're able to still address the diesel aspect, because the truck is needed. It's a necessity down there. So I'm really happy that you're gonna maintain that. I don't have anything else with the project. I think it's great.
Do we have any comments from Fuss and O'Neill, or have those all been answered?
They had 3 minor things that just were cautionary, if you will, if anything, nothing of substance. I talked to Sean today, he's fine, he's ready to go.
So do we have to condition that area on the right side, front of the building, for extra snow removal,
Well, if
storage space?
There's 3 things I'm hearing, is one is the landscaping in the front, they're gonna, I suggest we condition it that they have to submit revised plans for landscaping and be approved by the board. And the snow storage, that has to be depicted somehow as temporary or something, or extreme area, or under extreme conditions, I don't know, we'll get the right language for
We
that.
use the language that, you know, the Concom was telling you,
Right.
that the reason why they wanted it over there, that will be very helpful.
And then there's one other issue that we found out today, is that their taxes still aren't paid. They had paid them, and now there's a new bill due, and they're outstanding again, and Mickey assured me he will take care of it. I'm gonna recommend that we make that a condition of approval. That you won't be able to
Perfect.
get a building permit unless they're paid.
No, when we did the on-site walk, I think everything worked well. I think this will work well with those conditions. I don't see anything. I looked at the elevation of the building, I think it's great. It's very nice, really looks nice. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
I think it's a great looking project.
How about the public?
Anybody out in the public? There's not that many out there. Everybody's shaking their head, so I guess nobody else has anything to say.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing on South Coastal Development.
You have a second?
Second.
You have a motion to second. Those in favor?
Aye. Do you wanna do conditions and then bring them back to us?
I think we're okay with.
What we got?
Yep.
You guys
The
okay?
standard conditions plus landscaping, a revised landscaping plan submitted to the board for approval, revised plan showing whatever what was the language Conscom used?
Language for the snow storage.
What, the other snow storage
Yep.
areas?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll just add some, they just wanted some over a catch basin.
Okay,
So it could
that
be-
language in there, and then taxes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the development of South Coastal Development, 303 Tremont Street, with our standard conditions, including the 3 that was addressed earlier by the planner.
Second.
A motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mickey. You'd be a great asset to this town. I want you to know that the conservation chairman's watching over you.
I understand.
If it wasn't for him, this project would be possible,
It
huh?
would not have happened. On many levels, I may add.
Were we on the minutes, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, let's go. Approval of minutes of May 7th, 2013.
I'll make a motion to approve as written, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very well done on the minutes too, by the way.
Very, very detailed. It's really good.
And you put the time down as we approve
He's
those.
good.
Correspondence.
I got 3 things. One, there was a public records request. I give them to you all the time regarding a curious one. They wanted to know every time Mr. Cirque appeared in front of you, which is, it is what it is. Secondly, this is regarding Ravenbrook. I did talk to the new treasurer. As you know, there's a surety placed on Ravenbrook. This is Southern Sky solar panels. And DEP has contacted the treasurer and told her that because they have control of the site, that their surety will more than suffice. Your surety was $117,000. They're asking for $241,000, and she felt it was duplicating efforts here, so she's comfortable with DEP holding the surety on this for decommissioning. Lastly, just as I've been, actually, yeah, I had a meeting with the Board of Health on Shady Acres. That's the campground off of
Can you
Shoestring
back
Road.
up a second, please? Can you explain that one again to me?
Yep. DEP controls the landfill site.
Yep.
They are requiring a surety for decommissioning of the solar panels of
Okay.
$241,328. The owner of the, and prior to this, the owner had placed a surety with the former treasurer
Mhm.
of $117,000. So the owner and DEP met with the new treasurer and said, why am I having two sureties for the same thing? And she agreed and felt the $241,000 was sufficient in her mind to hold a surety.
And DEP would hold the surety?
They do already. It's already been deposited. Both were deposited.
All right, as long as the treasurer's okay with it.
She actually wrote them a letter to that effect. There may be some expansion plans, not a lot. I think she was talking 36 sites at Shady Acres. Right now, it's, what does it say? Does she tell us how many they're there now? I think there's 160. Going in the Wayback Machine, back in the 85, I think it was, ZBA issued a permit for this site for 300 campsites. And as you know, campgrounds are no longer allowed in Carver. But because they're operating under a current permit, they're obviously grandfathered. And it's the building inspector, he just started today, I should have mentioned that. We have a new building inspector. His name is Frank DeFelice. Was the current building inspector in Eastham. He lives in West Wareham, and he started today. And he's gonna work 19 hours. He's very competent, knows his stuff.
He's very good.
You know him.
Yes, I do.
So anyway, we had a long discussion about that, about where does this fall? What can they do, can't they do? Are they currently under that umbrella of that permit? And he's asked them, put the onus on them to put this into a legal opinion on what they feel, where they stand, and then he'll make his opinion on it.
Good. Okay.
So I just wanted you to know that. That's all I got.
That's it. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, those in favor? Good night.
Thanks for hanging in there, Chad.